My dad came into my office at East End and looked around, and he actually said it in East, obviously very strong Eastern European accent, and they call me Anya, not Anna. And he goes, Anya, I think you know what you're doing.
You're 40, nearly 40.
Everything's okay. And I got quite emotional, and even thinking about it, because them acknowledging my achievements was a big thing for me.
Welcome to The Glass Ceiling, the podcast where business leaders share their stories, struggles and triumphs.
There is a lot in that. There's a lot of learning.
We sort of had different views on how the business should be ran.
The next 10 years looks like for South Australia.
Start part's the easiest. I'm your host, Marissa Hankinson from Wavebreaker, and I'm passionate about amplifying their voices. Join me as we explore the highs and lows of innovation, entrepreneurship and leadership. From founders to CEOs, our guests will share their insights, experiences and advice on how to succeed and make a lasting impact. Get ready for inspiring conversations and valuable lessons. Let's shatter the glass ceiling, one story at a time.
Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Look no further than Next Workspace. Located on level 15, 45 Pirie Street, our incredible facilities offer everything you need to thrive, from comfortable workspaces to cutting-edge technology and amenities. Plus, our collaborative community will help you connect with like-minded professionals, share ideas and learn from each other's experiences. With flexible workspaces, meeting rooms and event spaces, you'll have everything you need to grow your business. And with our supportive community, you'll never be far from inspiration, motivation or a helping hand. At Next Workspace, we're more than just an office, we're a community for innovation and creativity. Join us today and watch your business soar. Next Workspace, empowering your success. Visit us at www.nextworkspace.au.
Hi Anna, I'm Marissa Hankinson and thank you so much for joining me on the Glass Ceiling podcast. Please, can I ask you to introduce yourself?
I am the founder and director of Roussos Recruitment. I'm a mum to two beautiful boys who are now 15 and nearly 10, so Ollie and Seb. And I've got my beautiful husband, George, who also works in the construction industry.
So can I ask, how long have you had Roussos Recruitment?
Roussos Recruitment, we're coming into 7.5 years.
So you've just had an anniversary?
Yes.
Have you got an itch? 7-year itch?
No, not yet. I don't know. I have to say it has been the hardest year in business that sometimes I'm like, am I really still doing this? But no, we started the business in 2017 and I had always worked in recruitment. So I'm now actually going to be showing my age. I have been in the recruitment industry for nearly 22 years.
Okay. Started
working in recruitment back in the UK, actually.
Really? Were you London or where were you?
No, not even London, not even glamorous like that. It was down in a region called Devon. Out there trying to find construction sites and scary site managers. But no, so I've always loved recruitment, and our focus is construction, property, engineering, and architecture, and that also encompasses development and civil. We're starting to do stuff for renewables and power, so we're super busy and a growing team.
Fantastic. Yeah. So how many is in your team?
Right now we have a team of 9, but actively recruiting, FYI, everyone. Would love to, by end of, next financial year, be up to a team of 14. And for us, we've been very blessed. Our business has grown really organically. And, our key focus is in how we deliver and service our clients. And we're really excited, for the first time, everyone's saying that Adelaide has mega projects. Don't know exactly what that means, but I think it means they're going to need a lot of people to deliver these projects. And we're really excited to be involved.
So it's really funny that you've just mentioned that you're recruited for yourself, but also recruiting for the construction industry. So where are these people coming from? Are they coming from interstate to little old Adelaide?
Not as many as I think everyone has thought we would have over the last couple of years. Just after COVID, we did see some movement from Melbourne and Sydney. But in the last 18 months, that has really died off. We are seeing a few more so from actually overseas. So there was a lot of hold up when it comes to visas being released through that time. So, if I look at the last 6 months, we've placed 3 people from Brazil, about 5 people from South Africa, and 1 person from the UK. So it's great to get, different talent coming into the Adelaide marketplace, but we're not getting the interstate talent moving across to us as much as what I think we could be, being that we've got, I think if I look at what the next 10 years looks like for South Australia, it's a very strong marketplace, which offers great stability and great opportunity for people.
But if you look at all the other states as well, they're going through the same. Sydney's growing, Brisbane's growing, you've got the Olympic, like there's all this other stuff also happening interstate. So we all know that construction is the most stable of careers, which is good. So let's just go back a little bit. Did you do university?
No.
God, university life, I love it.
I think my dad still hates me for it. So
No.
yeah. My parents migrated from Poland. So they arrived, so I was actually born in Austria. I'm going to take you back. Born in Austria.
Yep.
And we were refugees in Austria. And they had a choice. Like there's always these stories, whether we go to Canada or New Zealand. And my parents chose New Zealand at that time. My dad was actually a residential builder and there was the market was doing quite well in New Zealand. But my brother actually had quite bad asthma because it was, I think from memory, New Zealand is quite moist air, lots of rain. And so they're like, we need to go to a dry climate. So as soon as we got our citizenship, literally ditched the Kiwis, moved over to Adelaide. And so I was very much brought up, that and reminded of constantly around the sacrifices they've had to make to come to give us a better future. Yeah. And for them, that better future meant education. And so they worked really hard, especially my mum was a stay-home mum, but dad worked 2 different jobs. English was a second language. I always say, oh, we came over $500 and da-da-da-da-da. But what happened in year 12, I put way too much pressure on myself. So I chose, back in that time, it was PES and PAS. And so PES subjects meant that you needed to have an exam at the end of year 12. So 50% was weighted on your assignments and 50% was weighted on your exam. I nearly failed all of my exams. I literally choked. And so when I got my results, my teachers were like gobsmacked. They were like, oh my gosh, like how has this even happened? And, and I could see the disappointment in my parents, but I know that they could also tell that I studied hard through year 12. Like I was very dedicated to my study. I also played competitive tennis. So I was really focused across both, but they were gutted. I ended up still getting entered into science. And then, my teachers always thought I would be a lawyer. I'm not too sure because I didn't think I did very well in English. But I got into science, which was at Adelaide University, which was then I was going to do a dual degree into law. But I really just felt like I just didn't know what I want. And I hear it a lot now in the recruitment. I don't really know what I wanted to do. So I went into work. And I think, like I said, I think my dad's disowned me at least 10 times through my 20s because he was disappointed. For him, he was like, for his success was, I've migrated, my daughter has gone to university. My sister, who is 10 years younger, has gone to university. So at least she's done that tick box for him. It's funny. It wasn't until probably 3 years ago that, if you think about that, nearly turning 40, that my dad came into my office at East End and looked around and he actually said it in his obviously very strong Eastern European accent and they call me Anya, not Anna. And he goes, Anya, I think you know what you're doing.
You're 40, nearly 40.
Everything's okay. And I got quite emotional. And even thinking about it, because them acknowledging my achievements was a big thing for me. And meanwhile, I was married and had 2 kids and running a business. But hey, Dad, no worries, thanks. And now he has to go on a different level of respect for me. Like whilst before he wouldn't, my dad's opinion was like, whatever Dad said went. He didn't actually really have an opinion. Whilst now Dad will go, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? Can you go and speak to your brother? He needs a bit of a hand. And it's nice how things
Are you the eldest?
I'm the middle. I'm the
Okay.
middle. And I had a really close relationship with my dad because he loved the fact that I was a really hard worker when it came to my tennis as well. I started tennis really late. I was 14. And within 4 years, I managed to be, in the top handful in South Australia. And that came from me nagging him in the morning, Dad, come on, we've got to go practice. And me practicing my ball tosses and doing extra running. Like I was a very competitive, determined young lady. And I think he saw a bit of him in me. And so I think that's why he was also so disappointed that, I didn't do my uni degree. But meanwhile, my dad didn't do any degree. Like, my dad was actually, and this is for another story, but my dad was actually an orphan back in Poland. But I think but the importance of him what he thought was, oh, it's all about my kids. I'm going to do this so my kids have a better life. And if my dad listens to this podcast, I'm pretty happy, Dad. Like, life is good. So,
and it's interesting you talked about being determined and with your tennis and things like that, because they're skills that you have to hold on to. They're not skills that are taught at school.
No.
And they're skills that you are like intuitive to you as a person. Do you think those skills have helped you in business?
Yeah. It's, I talk about a lot, is drive something that you can actually train into people, and I look at my team and some are really ambitious and some just don't have the same drive that perhaps I did in my 20s. And I struggle with that a little bit. But yeah, I look at a lot at that drive, and that determination has come from my parents, and they have installed that in me because I've seen, I've seen the hard work they've had to do to get ahead in their life, and I wanted to do that and more. And then now I look at my kids and what I want to give to them. But yeah, it's whether it's in my personal life, my work life, I'm super determined. And the competitiveness is around, I want to be the best in what I do, but it's not at all costs.
No.
Like my focus isn't just deliver any sort of service to my clients. It's going, I'm going to deliver the best service. And some would say that my standards are way too high. And I think I've had to come to peace with that, I do have high standards. But those high standards is how I've got to where I am now.
Yeah, that's where the success has come
from. I shouldn't feel guilty for having to be determined to provide the best service to my clients and candidates because that's who I am. That's part of me.
Obviously, I follow you on socials and you do things differently.
Yeah.
One of the things I always admire really is that team culture that you do seem to have at Roussos, the things that you do for your team to build that culture. Where did that come from? Is that one of your values that you really wanted to instill with your business?
Look, it's been a real journey, Marissa. Like I'd love to say and say, yes, I feel like I've got it all right when it comes to team culture, but I can't say that. And I think every business right now, especially over the last 12 to 18 months, has probably had a higher attrition rate than what they would like to have. And I think I wanted to create a business that, yes, was in line to my values, but also what I felt like I wanted from my employer or my previous employers. And I've been through a lot of different journeys, and I don't know if we'll speak about obviously my health journey as well.
Yeah, that's massive.
And through that, I really value being happy.
Yeah.
And work is a big part of someone's happy and what makes them fulfilled. I know that some people go and just say, hey, I'm going to do a job, and that's fine because there's other elements in their life that fulfill them, and whether it's exercise, family, hobbies, whatever that makes them happy. For me, my job is my happy.
Yeah.
And it's my career. I don't believe in the work-life balance. I've chosen a path to make sure that my life is completely fulfilled. And so I wanted to create that feeling for others. And that's why I wanted to create that business. And wellness is a big part of that. Like I do feel to be truly happy and confident, you need to feel good about yourself. And that comes from exercise. It comes from whether it's spending time with your friends, whether it's eating all the right things. But I know that that's what makes me feel good. And I can absolutely tell the difference if I haven't gone to the gym through the week. Like I become Hulk. And so I wanted to just try and, be able to share, I guess, some of my learnings through my life and create a culture that I am proud of.
Yeah, and I definitely think that comes across. It's interesting because I think that you can't just do a job. If you think about how much time you are actually at your job and working, you have to be happy or get fulfillment from it. You can't just switch off, go to a job, come back, because it is. I dread to even, if I had the stats, I would dread to think how much proportion of your life is actually working.
Yeah.
So you've got to grab that. And I love the fact that you do wellness things with your team. You go for walks. You do team
They
routines.
hate me sometimes for it. I really do. Yeah. I make them do the burpees. It's not good. No, but it is. Yeah, it is really important. And I think a lot of people, when they're going through their career, they don't think enough far forward around, they sometimes will, they react when it comes to taking on a job. and they don't actually look at what they're, it is creating a life by design. You do need to think through and plan what you want your life to look and feel like, and people aren't doing enough of it.
So that's really interesting, because do you think you bring that into your business when you're recruiting? Do you think you have like an education role for other businesses when you're recruiting? Do you take that on?
I would say that's one of our point of differences at Roussos, and I would love to be able to say that all my team have got the ability to provide that advisory service, but they're also very new to the industry and learning as well. But yes, and look, some talent, whether it's with the candidate, which we obviously the talent, or the employers, but some of them don't want to hear it. A lot, right now we're working in a talent short market, and one of the main motivators for people is money. And so they don't actually sit down and care about, sometimes the employee value proposition. Well, I think, to me, that's where it should be driven from. I know money is important, but my God, if you do a good job and you show investment in what you're doing to that organisation, they'll look after you. They'll pay you well.
Yeah.
But so I think sometimes, I have people that I interview and I want to give advice to, and they'll probably think, oh gosh, she's a bit bonkers. But I really do try. And sometimes that advice also, Marissa, isn't, maybe it's not time for you to leave your employer. Maybe it's, it's more so that because, you're telling me you like this, 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 and this. Maybe what you should be doing is actually finding the skill set to actually have a tough conversation, because the grass isn't always greener.
No.
And a lot of people also will come and they think, I'm not happy in my life. The solution is change a job. It's not always the solution. If things are happening outside of work, and they do, whether it's, kids, husbands, wives, partners, financials, there's other things that can put pressure on that makes you think that you're just not happy at your job, and you just blame straight away, oh, it's the job. It must be the job. It's not something else.
It's the bulk of your time.
Yeah, that's it. And it's sometimes you need to sit back and actually go, well, what am I doing to change the story a little bit? And is it the employer? Is it the job? Or is it more than that before making that big switch? Because reality is, I'm also doing, a podcast series, and I'm speaking to a lot of leaders at the moment. And what I'm getting from every single leader is their growth has come from being stable in their employment. It's not about the chopping and changing. And I would love for people to really, here I am, the recruitment agent, saying, don't change jobs, don't come see me. No, come see me, but for different reasons. But it's, sometimes it's really just stop and think and really map out what you want to achieve in life.
Yeah, very, very bit more. And it's interesting because sometimes change can make people feel even more overwhelmed if it's not, because then you've got the whole change, learning a new role, learning new business, learning a new team on top of and other things that may be wrong in your life. So just going back, what 7.5 years ago, Roussos Recruitment was found. That's a change for you. Yeah. What drove that change for you to go, I've worked in recruitment, but now I want to go out on my own?
I've always been very ambitious. And even through my recruitment career, I it's a little bit naive, but I was chasing the title. Like that's why I look at these. I was like, oh yeah, I can probably relate a little bit. And I think if I had more opportunity, I'd probably change the way I was thinking a little bit in my 20s and early 30s. I've always loved helping people, and I've always loved building relationships. My dad has taught me how you treat others is how you'll be treated back. And he said, you need to be honest, you need to be respectful, you need to be trustful. And so those are the core values that have always just formed me and Roussos. And I think I always felt like there wasn't the complete alignment in my last role, but the big wake-up call for me was when I was diagnosed with cancer. Yeah. And, that was 2016, January 12th, 33 years old, pregnant with baby number 3. God, I can still remember the day. And I didn't feel sick on that day at all. So it was like a massive shock to be then told 2 days later that I've got 6 weeks to live unless I start chemotherapy instantly. But through that journey, so I was away from work for 12 months. And all I wanted was normality. I didn't want to be at the hospitals, which I was at the hospitals for a long period of that time due to my immune system being compromised. And I just realised that connection with people was something I was really missing. So I did start to connect with everyone at the hospitals. I recruited my own team in the hospital. There was the A team. I'm not joking. I had nurses that I knew who were going to look after me, doctors, and And I'm so grateful because they helped me get through that really tough time in my life, as well as my amazing husband. But I think during that time, I was my most vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I had to really let my guard down and let complete strangers see me for who I am. You know, vulnerable Anna, who wasn't as confident and scared, but super determined. I was super goal orientated. In my journey, I actually had a whiteboard and I had goals of what I wanted to achieve with exercise in the hospital. There's another story. I was crazy through that time as well.
But that's that drive though, and look where you are now.
Oh yeah. I mean, I know, like, you know, my chance to get through was 33%. It wasn't great odds at all. My doctor told me that, and I looked to him, right, we're never going to talk about that again. No. What do we need to do to actually get through this? And we went into battle. But I knew after that journey that I needed to positively impact people like they impacted me. And it's the core of what I'm made up with today. And so when I went back to my work, people just didn't seem happy. I was skipping in. I was like, yes, I'm back. I'm back. I can finally taste my coffee again. It was really, because, you know, when you go through so much chemo, you have a metallic bitter taste. And I was tasting the coffee. I didn't care if it was burnt or not burnt or whatever milk. I was like, I can taste it. And people just didn't seem happy. And I was coming home feeling a bit anxious. And George was like, what is going on? I said, something doesn't feel right. I didn't go through this last 12 months to be going back into an environment where people are just not really that happy.
No.
And I have to say, I did say to him that I want to set up a business, but I did also say that it would just be me, flexibility, a bit of part-time. I can be more involved with the kids. And he's like, yeah. You know, George is my number one supporter. And then literally 3 months later, I hired my first person and it just grew from there. So best decision I ever made in setting up my business. Also super hard.
Yeah.
And I have evolved so much as an individual, and I've learnt the things that I've learnt. I don't think any degree could have taught me, and I'm still learning, and I love it. And this last 12 months it has been bloody tough in the business. And I had a business coach say, going, well, you know, you probably need to work out what you want to do. Do you want to grow, or do you want to maybe scale back a little bit? And the thought of scaling back made me feel sick. I was like, nah, there's no way. I'm turning 42 this year. There's no bloody way I'm scaling back. I'm moving forward. I'm going to accelerate, and I'm going to put a plan together, and I'm going to make it work. So,
okay. So we talked about your health journey, and I have heard that story before, and it was your vulnerable self back then. But I also think, and I admire that you do bring vulnerability to telling your story as well. And positivity is just, it's a mindset. And I think people don't necessarily pour enough on mind your values, positivity, surround yourself with the right people. Yeah. Because that what can take you forward. Now, I do know that you do a phenomenal amount of work with Jodie Lee Foundation.
Yes, I know.
And the thought of those hikes that you do is just like,
I'm recovering from the last one. Thank you, Nick Lee. I've got a couple of black toenails. Yeah, I mean, I have to say, privileged to be asked to go onto the board this year.
Yeah, congrats.
And it's an amazing foundation. And you know what? Yes, I wasn't struck by bowel cancer, but Jodie Lee, unfortunately, I think it was the age of 42, you know, left her beautiful young children and her husband behind. And the reason why I'm such a big supporter is because I do believe in wellness and health. And unfortunately, bowel cancer now is, and I want to get these statistics right, but it's the largest cancer killer of individuals between the ages of 25 and 35.
Yes. Wow.
It's huge. And not only that, it's 99% curable if detected early. But bowel cancer, like leukemia, is an elderly disease. And no one thinks you're going to get leukemia or you're going to get bowel cancer in your 20s and your 30s. And so what they do in trying to raise awareness of people to actually understand the symptoms of what bowel cancer can look like, and then to back yourself 100% when you go and speak to the doctor and say, I feel like I need to be checked, is amazing. And I love supporting them, and they're a small charity, and they need all the support they can get, because they do great things. It's not one of those things where you give to charity, you don't know where the money's going.
No,
you can see. And the trek has been 6 years, and I loved it so much that I've dragged key clients from the industry that I love to work in, and some of them have done it twice, some have done it 5 times. But I'm proud to say that from the industry, together under the Roussos team, we've raised over $300,000 for the Joe Lee Foundation.
Fantastic.
Which is cool, really cool.
And that goes back to the relationships that you build to be able to, they're not clients, they're relationships that...
Come and walk with me for 80 kilometres for 2 days.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they're relationships that they are your foundation from your business, for your personal life. You know, relationships, health-wise, what you're doing with your charities. So is there anything that you've, and this is just for me because I like to learn all the time, is there any philosophies, books, is there anything that sort of you go, you know what, read this or do this because this really helps? Because I had a question that was, do you have a woman that you admire? And you've mentioned your dad a lot. So I think there's something you didn't need to answer that question about it being a female.
No, I think it's, I do admire my dad. And, and the thing is, like, I was, and I'd love to say that I have a female business leader that I have looked up to through my career journey, but not yet. No. But, there's a lot of amazing leaders that I looked up to from our industry. But, I have to say my mum and my mother-in-law, they're amazing women for 2 different things. Like, my mum was a stay-home mum. She didn't work up until she was in her 40s, and to the point that after she raised us 3 kids, she was like, I want to go back to work, but I don't even know what to do. Like, all I've done is raise 3 kids. And I'm like, well, no, Mum, you haven't actually just done that. And so she did go and get a role in childcare. Right.
Perfect.
And as and she's now, mum is 65. So she was, I think, mid-40s when she started into that career. But I look at, when she went for that job interview, which I actually did have to help her with the CV, she didn't even know how to use a computer. And I hope she's going to hate me for saying that. She didn't know how to use a computer, couldn't turn it on, didn't know how to use a mouse, still very strong English, English second language. And the courage that she went on to actually go and get herself a job and educate herself in that and go through a certificate and something rather, and now a diploma, was massive. And, and it's amazing that she's gone and done that, and the sacrifices she has made to stay home, to support my dad in what he was doing in his business, but to raise us is amazing, because I could not do it. I love my kids, but I was back at work at 4 months with both of them.
Because
I
couldn't be a stay-at-home mum either.
It's a hard job, and hats off to every mum that chooses to stay home with their kids. It's a career in itself.
Yes.
And then I look at my mother-in-law, who is like a miniature pocket rocket. She's obviously Greek nationality, 75, still working.
Oh my goodness.
2 shifts at one of the chemists, and she doesn't sit. She doesn't sit. She doesn't watch TV. She just goes. And I can see why my husband perhaps liked me, because we share a similar zest for life. Her energy is phenomenal, and the support she gives me, I couldn't do what I do today without her.
Oh,
so I'm very lucky.
You are very, very lucky.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that you've learned from leaders. So I'm more than happy for you to plug your podcast, because you are dealing with, you are interviewing these leaders from the construction industry.
Yeah, yes. And look, so we've just started recently leading large, and the reason is because, I do want to give back to our industry, and like I said, I love what I do, absolutely love what I do, and I want to see people be successful, whatever success may look like for them, because success doesn't always equate to being a leader. You've actually, as I keep going in, you've got to hone in to what you want your life to look like, design your life. But it has been amazing speaking to these leaders, because I do hope that whether it's a young professional or graduates or other leaders can listen to it and actually learn from each other. And so we all become happier humans and, and better professionals. And, there was a book that I was thinking about, because I had a feeling you might ask if there was a book or something. I have the first book that I read when I read a lot of books, but the first book I read that I actually started to get my team to read was a book called Delivering Happiness.
Okay.
And I wrote it down. It was Tony, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Tony Hesh. And this book is around being happy is good for business. And and it is about culture, and it is about purpose and why, but it's saying that if your people are happy, this will actually fundamentally help you grow your business and be better at what you do. And through the book, it also talks about the wow and trying to create the wow in your business and the experience. And it's something that I hone into my team going, you know, from picking up the phone to meeting a candidate, from how we email our clients, I want everyone to feel the wow that Roussos can bring. And because we want to positively impact people. And that's what our mission is. And this book, it's simple, but it's beautiful. And it talks about the Zappos story and their journey and how they grew. And it's a goodie.
Okay. Well, I will take that away. But all I can say, Anna, I thank you. And can I just ask, what is your mum's name and your mother-in-law's names?
Oh, okay. So my mother's Bożenka, right, the Polish. And then look, we're just going to go Betty, because I can't even pronounce what the Greek name actually was. So Betty, and actually they call my mum Bozzy, not because she's bossy, even though I might think so, but Bożenka, Okay,
fantastic. So a shout out to them too, because they sound like they've had a huge impact on your life as well. Thank you very much for being my guest.
No, it's been great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Glass Ceiling. If you've liked what you heard, please subscribe, as we'd love to have you as part of our community. We're grateful to our guests for sharing their inspiring stories and insights with us, and to our sponsors in making this podcast possible. This podcast was brought to you by Wavebreaker. Join us next time as we shatter the glass ceiling, one story at a time.